Hi everyone, it's Kasia from Tarot Map, and I am reviving my inspired Tarot Map series, and I'm having a wonderful guest today. The guest, Belinda Gore. Gore?
Gore, yes.
Gore, yeah. Belinda Gore is a creator of, or the creator of, the Ancient Ritual Postures deck. Hello, Belinda.
Hello.
I was telling Belinda, and you guys know me if you have been following me for a while, that when I find something I'm like, love, I go crazy about it. So I actually saw your deck at Meg's channel. It's another channel on YouTube, and she was showing, the cards. And first I was just drawn to the artwork. I was just thinking, oh my God, this is amazing artwork. I love this. In general, I love what you did with adding the like fabrics as the background, and then the ancient ancestors like overimposed of it, and then you like mixed it up a bit. I just thought like, oh my God, I love the look of it. And it's just totally along my alley. So, I just saw it and I'm like, oh, fuck, I love it. Like, I want to know more about it. And then the whole idea, I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm sorry, guys, but the whole idea of the deck, it's like an interactive deck. So we will be talking about it. You, Belinda, better say something about it. But I just wanted for people who might not know the deck, because it's quite a new deck. You published it in 2021.
Yes.
And I haven't seen many people showing the deck or playing with the deck, or actually I just saw one person on YouTube who used it in our community. So I just wanted to share a few cards. We are going to go deeper into it, but for people to just get a sense of what we are even talking about. So Belinda, if you can just maybe start with how come? What is it? What happened here? Okay, why the ancient ancestors, and what's going on in the deck? If you can just tell us an introduction, what is the deck about?
Well, you'll have to stop me along the way because I can get into a long story. Because it really begins in 1984 when I met Felicitas Goodman, who was an anthropologist. She was born in Romania of German parents, but had come to the United States, and that's a whole story in itself. She was a professor of anthropology, and I met her and discovered that in her research, she had identified that there are, in the artwork of Indigenous people around the world from as long ago as 40,000 years ago, evidence of these postures that are usable for ritual to help us utilize our bodies as a tool to interact with the world of spirit. So as I was just saying to a friend this morning, it's not to be in this world less, but in both worlds or multiple worlds more. And that we come equipped in our bodies with the capability of opening to the perception of multiple realities. And these postures like this one opens that doorway, or opens like a specific doorway. So Felicitas had begun this research on how to help us use our bodies to use these ritual postures. I studied with her, was her right-hand person. She died in 2005 at 91. And I've taught this work. This has been my primary spiritual practice for almost 40 years now.
I want to get into it, like the primary spiritual practice. Just one quick question before you go further. So do you actually practice the postures how frequently? Daily? Once a week? Once?
At this point, it depends. I almost always have at least one monthly group, so I do that with them. If there's something I need, like an answer for, or meditation or a tarot reading isn't doing it for me. But, I've practiced this so long that I select a card every few days to sort of help guide me. And I'll read the poem. And I've done all of these postures multiple times. So I have a relationship with the, if you will, the spirits or the field and the alternate reality that links me to a particular posture. And that opens up some things in itself. So I utilize the cards in multiple ways, and I do the practice in multiple ways.
Yeah. So before we go back to how the deck started, I have to quote you, because you said that the contact with spirit beings is based on establishing relationship, like developing friendships with humans, for example. That's my paraphrasing you. Reciprocity, give and take, is preferred over subservience and worship. And I really like it, because I don't think we're still waiting for the savior to come and save us. We're kind of really awakening the savior within ourselves. And
which is the nature of the Aquarian age, is that we gather together and learn how to have our own experiences, rather than asking a priest or a priestess or someone else to be the intermediary. And that's what these postures are so brilliant at, because as we were talking earlier, it's based on the common denominator of our physical bodies. And we have the same fundamental physical body that our most ancient ancestors 40,000 years ago had. So it's so perfect that the communication is through our physicality.
Yeah, that's so beautiful what you also wrote, that the body is the common denominator that joins all humans who have ever existed on the planet. When I read it, I was like, oh, I'm honored to be a human and be connected to all the humans, that lived on the planet. That's really wonderful. And also it's such an inclusive system, because I think anybody from any culture, from any body type, skin color, can really connect to those ancient ancestors, because they like human, humanity's ancestors. And it's just really beautiful.
And I intentionally chose postures from around the world.
Yeah.
So that whether it's the Orca shaman from the Pacific Northwest, or, from all around the planet.
Yeah.
The indigenous people from any location seemed to have had ritual postures.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Amazing.
And without social media and, what are these guys doing? What are these guys doing? Like, we really, I think the earth-based practices, like the shamanic practices, they existed in every culture and actually share a lot similarities. In my Slavic culture, I know that we have like Tree of Life, or a lot of mythology that it's very similar to like Native American from Indians from America. Like there is a lot of stuff that once I remember this picture on my Facebook, which had like this, it's called Hand of God. And I know that Native Americans have that. And a friend of mine wrote, can you please take it down? Because this is like cultural appropriation. And I said, you know what, it's actually not, because this is, and I have the source, like this is coming from this and this vase, and it's this and this, century, whatever, or pre-century from our culture. And I sent it to him and he goes, wow, that's fascinating that they have exactly the same thing, exactly the same, like kind of like a wheel of, It's like, it's not a medicine wheel, but it has like 4 directions, obviously, like the cross and some, it
Right.
was amazing. Like I found it so interesting, the whole encounter, you know, it's like, wow.
And I think, yes, that's important because some postures seem unique to one particular area, but like the bear spirit posture, that posture, I think Felicitas did a map, and it's like all over the world in different cultures, in different formats. And so rather than this is my culture's, it's like humanity was gifted with these opportunities to interact with the sky world, the earth's surface world, and the beneath world. And as far as I know, every indigenous group has an understanding of the multiple worlds and the importance of our ability to interact with them.
That's fascinating. So let's go back to how we were making
cards.
the deck.
Right. Let's see, how long ago was it? Not that many years ago, for my birthday, my roommate took me to a workshop, a 2-hour workshop. And we learned a tool of creating collage with fabric using a product that allows you to iron on, to iron it on, and it has an adhesive, and you peel it off and then you iron it on paper or other cloth. And I had such a good time with it that I came home and I thought, oh, I know, I'll use the images of postures because the person who had done the illustrations for my 2 earlier books, I had all the originals, so I just copied them, sized them, put them on paper, ironed them on, and then I just started playing. I love fabric and texture and color, and so I just started playing. And once I got started, then it was like, oh, I'm going to make a deck of cards. I've wanted a deck of these cards for 20 years, maybe more. I actually talked to a couple of artists about creating them, but nobody had the vision I had. And isn't that the case, that if we have a vision, I guess it's ours to enact? So really, I made them over a fairly short period of time. My roommate is a poet, and I did a book of soul collage with poetry. So I just started writing poetry with them as well. And then the book came together.
Should we give people a taste of the poem and maybe the image? Do you want to share the screen now? Let's do it. Why not?
Sure.
I think it's,
so which one would you like?
Should we just, I'm going to, do you have like all the images there? Can I just pick a one by random?
Not all of them. I have all of them that were on the list that you said you pulled.
Okay, well, let's see what comes up. And if it's not then we pick the Lady of Malta. But let's see, maybe you have this one. Maybe there's an ancestor that really wants us to.
Yes, I want to speak.
All right, something from the healing group. Ecuadorian woman. I don't think we have her.
I don't have her, but you're holding her on the screen.
Exactly, and you can read a poem.
Let me just read her. I am the one who stands with hands outstretched and with an open heart. Come, let us make prayers together. I am the woman of Ecuador. It is said that the best defense is no defense at all. A heart this vulnerable does not resist the intruder, but simply watches as the intruder passes through. A heart this exposed has no corners in which to harbor secrets. A heart this brave has faced fear, has looked fear in the eye and smiled. I am made whole by the power flowing through my open hands. I am made holy by the love that spills out from my unencumbered heart. Find me in the fullness and in the emptiness. Join me and raise the holy fire. Ride the currents of love into the vast and golden universe. Stand with me with outstretched hand and open heart, and together we will be whole.
Wow, I've got goosebumps, especially after what we were talking about even before we recorded. Oh my God.
And so then I include like if you were asking a question and you drew that as the oracle card, then the oracle says, when in doubt, smile and say yes. Look around, find the one to whom you can open your heart next. Let love have its way with you. That is how you will be healed. Be clear with yourself about what you fear, then look what you fear straight in the eye and embrace it.
Mm.
So those would be the answers to your question if you came to this and just wanted to use these cards as oracle cards. So that's available, even if you don't want to do the ritual of holding the pose. The Ecuadorian woman is available even in our words. And then you can have your own experience by doing the posture ritual itself.
So yeah, just for everybody to know. So in the book, I'm just going to just show it. That's how it looks. So we have like the beautiful poem. The poems are amazing. And I'm the fan of poetry in the cards. Like some of my favorite tarot books are the poetic ones when you actually, you know, are taken a little bit out of the reality and bridge into other realities. And then you have this divination. So that's the last 4 points that you read. And then there is a description of the posture of how we can get into it. And I'm calling it an interactive oracle, because then there is another level to the cards. Well, there's another 2 that I want to actually speak of. So before maybe we get into the getting into the posture, maybe you tell us a little bit about the mandalas as well, because each of the cards have, like the cards, I wrote it down, I'm well prepared. I'm sure you could tell us, but there is 5 suits.
Yes.
And there is suit of healing, divination, metamorphosis, spirit journeys, and initiation. And each of the suits
ritual.
And ritual. That's the most important one. That's the one that
the ritual cards are like the bookends, you know, calling the spirits is like how we start a lot of ritual. But I thought I needed something on the back of the card. And what I wanted was to be able to, if you wanted to just work with healing, so how could you sort out the healing cards? Well, if you know that this is the image, then you pull out all 10 of these cards and you can sort, there are 10 in each suit, except for the ritual cards, which there are only 2. Then you pull out just the healing cards and choose, perhaps you shuffle those 10 and you choose a healing card for what specific healing issue you want to attend to.
It's very subtle.
So what I did, there's a beautiful book, and I can't remember the name. Unfortunately, the man who created the mandalas died. This was just something I've always done, as I colored them with colored pencils. And we took photographs and put them on the very dark background, and suddenly all those colors just popped. And so I suggest in the book that if you're not familiar with doing this kind of ritual, that what you can start with is just use the mandala to help you visually focus on the center as a way of calming your mind, getting your focus, and then you can go on from there. So the mandalas have are a tool for focusing and also a tool for organizing the suits.
Yeah, and it makes sense. It's very easy, actually. You know, I haven't had it for a very long time, but it's very easy to navigate the deck for me. Like with the healing, with the also, you know, the mandalas, like even if you don't know how to read, you can recognize the cards from the same group. And so, but we did talk about just getting into these body postures, because I think that's the ecstatic trance, would you call it? Like that's how you practice the body postures, right? To get into.
So yes, there's
please help me out here. I'm short on words.
Yeah, it's a very generic ritual, and it's just what are the aspects that will help you utilize these postures best. And I borrowed this from my teacher, from Felicitas Goodman, that there are 5 basic steps, and they're so simple. She said, if I hadn't been trained well, I wouldn't have even recognized the first step, which is we come to the experience prepared. We come to the experience open, ready, willing to have an experience. Because when people come into it and they're really skeptical and this is all stupid, but I'll do it anyway, they tend not to have very elaborate experiences. In the setting up the ritual itself, the preparation in the moment is to use smudge, to use sage, lavender, tobacco smoke, or like copal resin, or Palo Santo sticks, anything that has a smoke and a smell that's natural. Every so often, there are people who say, well, the smoke bothers them. And so we've taken to using a little dish with essential oils.
Yeah.
So you can, just so there's a fragrance, but the smoke is like we're entering into that place where the boundary is not so firm.
Yeah. I think I just have to make this annotation just again about sage and Palo Santo and all of this stuff. I'm sure you're aware of it too, but just maybe for people to use what grows around them rather than go specifically and buy something, because I know that in our culture, consumerism just knows no boundaries, and there is a lot of it's just an issue where suddenly there is lack of sage, or where it's always grows, suddenly there is none because everybody is like exporting it. Because the lady in Poland has to buy sage. Like I do have my own herbs I can use here. So I just wanted to make a point of it so people are aware also about this issue that, there's a natural resource, and best use what grows around you, because that's probably going to be also better for you because it comes from where you grow.
That's the point, that different people used those because that's what was there.
Yeah.
And so if you like sage, grow it and dry it.
Exactly.
If you like lavender, grow it and dry it. Rather than, there's some places where White Mountain sage, which is a gorgeous smell, but they're harvesting too much, and so it doesn't have a chance to regenerate.
Yeah, exactly.
And we don't want to get into what was it? Felicitas had a great word for spiritual tourism. That, oh yes, I've done that, and I've gone here, and yes, I have all of my stuff. The point is a few things that just help us, and whatever is indigenous means of the land. And so whatever is of your land is best.
Yeah, I agree. And it's just whatever you connect to, of course, but I think it's worth making a point here with this.
I'm glad you did.
And so we prepare ourselves. And I also love the metaphor you use with the smoke, because it is true. And every culture, again, smudged. my culture smudge, Aboriginal people of Australia or Indigenous people of Australia smudge, and in ceremonies they always smudge everybody with these huge eucalyptus branches. It's definitely sets the mood, and yeah, you kind of feel like, okay, the space is prepared and you as well are prepared. Yeah, so this is our preparation, and then what do we do?
So the next thing is we set sacred space. And I always say, of course, all space is sacred in one sense, but we want to, in Wiccan, it would be draw the circle. We want to create a holding environment within which psychologically we feel safe and contained in the best sense of the word. That's what holding is. I use, again, the most generic way of doing that, and that is to track the 6 directions and follow the path of the sun. So honoring the east, honoring the south, the west and the north, the above and the below, and then we are in the center. I use my own prayers and an invitation. I published it in the book. I want people to find what speaks to them. You know, if I speak to the sunrise, it's the beginning of a new day. And I relate that to birth and to springtime and to possibilities. And so when I'm inviting the spirits of the East, that's what I'm speaking to. All of that. The South is how we're nurtured along our childhood, our adolescence, all of the resources that are given to us to grow and develop. In the West is where that remarkable catalyzation that things ripen and then we harvest them and we appreciate the harvest. And for me, it's held in the hearts of the grandmothers. And then in the North is the time for rest. It's where I live, it's the place of cold and darkness. When I teach in South America and New Zealand and stuff, I have to remember to shift that. But the cold and darkness is just, it's the time for rest, for going within to digest. The sky world is the immensity and the great mystery. The beneath world is that from which we have come, from which we have emerged. And so we're just tracking all of that. It makes a sphere, which is considered the womb. We go back to the womb of the Great Mother in that sphere. And now we're ready for ritual. Well, we've created sacred space. The next thing that we do is to give ourselves, most of us have very busy minds, so we need something to help calm the mind. I do just a brief breathing, a 5-minute breathing, encouraging people to track their breath into their belly, put a hand on the belly, and then just keep your attention on the rising and falling of the belly as the focus so that everything else goes into the background. That helps us go into the experience without busyness. Then we hold a posture, and usually before the ritual, we practice the posture using both the visual and the words to guide how to hold it. The detail is important. It's just like having acupuncture, you know, how you put something is important to the energy field. And then the sound of a rattle or a drum, I use a rattle, a rhythmic sound that affects how the brain's functioning. And it usually just softens the left brain that is about words and logic and sequential, and opens up more of the so-called right brain, which is more how we process dreams and visual experience. And we rattle for 15 minutes. In the book is a link to 4 tracks of drumming and or rattling that you can access at no extra charge. And that's it. And then you try to stay focused and treat yourself gently as you have the experience, not trying to consume the experience, but to be receptive.
Allow, yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't know, like if many people who listen have tried ever like any type of shamanic journeying, but sometimes it feels like nothing is happening. And I always, in my experience, the use of imagination is so helpful. Like, don't stop yourself, imagine stuff. Like, don't censor yourself like, oh, I'm just inventing this. Like, yes, of course, you're inventing this, go with it. Invent away. Would you agree with this? Like,
yes, absolutely. In workshops, we'd be in a circle and people would be sharing, and people would say, well, nothing really happened. A big yellow bird flew in and sat on my shoulder and talked with me. That's all. I said, well, when's the last time in the rest of your life when you had an experience like that? That sounds significant to me.
Yeah, I think I'm just loving the idea of doing it in a group. It must be fascinating to even compare or see what comes up for people. Must be also very healing. Do you think that it's actually maybe even stronger of an experience if you do it with others?
Absolutely. Now, something that COVID taught us, which I never would have believed otherwise, is that we can do groups online. And so currently my monthly group is Exploring the World Tree. We're doing spirit journey postures for 10 months. And a woman in Australia, a woman in France, in Canada, in the United States, all over. And we get together on Zoom. And I never thought it would be even acceptable. And so I get, when I get messages, if you will, they are my friends, and they say, I thought you always said there's not really time or space. So if there really isn't space, then what does it matter if, they're joking with me.
Spirit world, right? Yeah. Like when we were laughing, there's like no boundaries really. So yeah, exactly. But COVID taught us this. Yeah.
It's better in person. I will always do it in person. Sure. I would always prefer to do it on the land instead of inside, overdoing it on Zoom. But if 25 women can get together on Zoom and have experiences that then we break out into small groups and then come back together, that's better than not doing it at all, right?
Exactly. Yeah. That's better than not doing it at all. So I wanted to actually say something also which you wrote, of course. I'm just going to quote you because I also love it. I'm going to just read it to you. This practice does not make you a shaman or a healer or a bruja. It's not an attempt to become native or adopt the life ways of hunter-gatherers or herdsmen or early horticulture people. In using these ritual postures, we are honoring our ancestors rather than trying to become them. We are embracing our heritage as humans, calling upon the embedded skill of the human body, which is the common denominator to everybody. I love this. When I read it, I felt like, oh, this is so beautiful. And that's why when I said like, oh, I feel so honored that I can, that my body and it's kind of really, like, of course, we kind of changed, but genetically and how the organs, how the body is built, it's the same as
you came into this world with a nervous system and a body that are wired for this experience. And every other human being on the planet did. People who have nervous system disorders might have difficulty. But I've worked with a small group of women who are mothers of sons who are autistic, and they've shared the experience with their sons. Their comments were that really the experience helped them better understand their sons rather than their sons wanting to do the experience on a regular basis or have the experience on a regular basis. I would not, I'm trained as a psychologist, but I would never have a group for that because these are women who reached out to me. And so I said, yeah, I'll meet with you. And if you want to invite your sons, great. But let's be mindful of we didn't learn this from an elder teaching us. We learned this from our experiences interacting with the world of the spirits. And so we've done the best we can to learn, but this isn't a teaching of one particular culture. And so we don't have the benefit of maybe having something that's traditionally handed down for a lineage of, 100
thousands of years
generations.
as well. Yeah. And would you say that if we on this topic, like, are there any dangers of using, like, is there any like red flags or red lamps going on or warnings? Anybody can use it at any time. Like if you prepare, is there anything that can go really wrong? Or
I've never seen it.
Yeah. Okay.
That's not been my experience. I do encourage people, don't eat a heavy meal, drink water and have water available. Sometimes people will have a dip in their blood sugar level. So have a little orange juice or, a little something that can help with that. But I think people who have severe mental illness perhaps shouldn't use it, but it's not something that's dangerous.
Yeah.
In our culture, there's been a lot of worries about being, what's the word, possessed. Oh. And the hunter-gatherer and horticultural people from whom these postures emerged, that, as Felicitas wrote and spoke a lot about, it's really agricultural societies in which there is this sense of spirits possessing people. We're having conversations, that's all. And so in my experience, this has been extraordinarily helpful and safe.
Yeah, and you have worked with these postures yourself for years, and also with like probably hundreds or thousands of people over the years, right? So this is pretty good. Yeah, if you didn't have like, oh, it happened 10 times, it didn't happen. Yeah. So that's pretty good. That's pretty good kind of level.
I've been teaching for 39 years.
Yeah. And wow.
So yeah, I've had a number of experiences.
Yeah.
With
we can
variety
say.
of people in different settings. Yeah.
Okay, so how would using the cards with the postures like affect people's lives? Like what happens when we actually, go into the posture, we prepare, like you suggested, like we go into the ritual, we stand with the posture, like obviously we come up with, it's hard to say what comes up for everybody individually, but is there like a general idea, like why we would even do this, like go there, like how Felicitas even, well, she looked at Sleeping Lady of Malta and she goes, okay, let me just lie down and try to lie like her, like how did it even?
Yeah, she started with 5 or 6 postures. And I mean, she was a scientist, so she had people come to her home one at a time to have experiences. One of the things she would say is that it's just good for us psychologically to let this is more my language, that Ecstasy is getting out of the usual state, ecstasis. And it's a relief for us to experience being relieved of the word that comes is hegemony, the restriction, really, of our egoic consciousness. It's like if you follow your dreams, you experience yourself in the world in a different way. Through just doing this, it's like, oh, there's more to me and more to life than I thought. So that in itself is helpful and healing. Excuse me. But then if you need healing for a particular disorder, or you want to support someone who's gone to the hospital, you can do a healing posture and choose one that helps you send healing energy. If someone's dying, you can use initiation postures to help them and or you understand the process of death. Tickle, sorry.
Okay, now you need a glass of water.
I do indeed. Divination is for asking questions. Spirit journeys help us keep balance among the worlds. Metamorphosis allows us, it's technically shape-shifting. I don't believe I become a crow like in the Don Juan stories of Carlos Castaneda, but when I remember the first time I experienced being a jaguar, oh my gosh, just the gorgeous power and beauty and fluidity, it opened me up. And so I can access that when I'm feeling too tense or rigid.
In some ways, these are like unforgettable experiences.
Yes,
when you truly experience it.
Yep.
It could happen like 40 years ago, but that's, that kind of, the knowing is with you forever. Yeah.
Yes, that's right. And, you know, we've all had experiences that are just that fresh. The more profound the impact, the more alive it is in our memory, in the brain. And this is a whole brain, whole body experience. So yes, I have memories of things that happened indeed almost 40 years ago.
Yeah, wow. And would you share maybe like another story, personal, or maybe from like some, like, I don't know if I'm calling you out, but like if you remember a story that maybe stands out for you that was quite like incredible from one of the circles or your personal experiences, can you come up with something?
I just, you know, you could tell I could talk all day. When I invited a memory, it was of a time many years ago. So this would have been probably 1989. And I was going through a divorce. And it was very difficult for me. I knew it was something I needed to do, but it was still hard. My husband and I had separated, and it was at a workshop. But it's funny though, how could it? I'm having a couple of memories. I remember sitting with a group of women who were staying at my home for the workshop and having this experience, but it was with the bear spirit. And in the posture, yeah, you're going to hold up the bear spirit posture.
I'm trying to,
yes.
Second cut. I didn't have to.
Good. So you see how the bear is standing behind the shaman, so supportive. And in that way, the bear, and it was grandfather bear, who was really big, came up behind me and unzipped himself from his neck all the way down and opened up his body and put me inside his body, my back into him, and zipped himself back up. And I was sitting there in the body of the bear, and it was hot and wet and smelly, and his body seemed to just pull out the toxins out of my body, physical toxins and emotional toxins. And then at the end of the rattling, he unzipped and I stepped out, and I felt refreshed, healed from the fear and depression and loneliness. It doesn't mean I've never felt afraid or lonely since then, but it's like I know that whatever is happening, I have friends and resources.
Mm. Yeah, and at the moment, it was probably very supportive.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
and
it's what I needed. And that's my experience, that people get what they need.
So there's one more thing which you wrote in your book. I don't have that lollipop, or what did you say? But you said, I'm indebted to my skeptical teacher because she challenged me to cope with the reality of my own loneliness. And you wrote later something about that. Otherwise, you would be like going into the candy floss wishy. Can you expand on this one? Because I actually love it, because it's such an embodied practice. And we live in the world of plastic shamans and healers who can't, I don't know, watch news, or, like people who basically really glamorize, I can't watch news, but yeah, who can glamorize spirituality to the extent when it becomes escapism, or, it kind of loses the purpose of embodied.
That term, a spiritual bypass,
yeah.
Oh, I'll just go do a trance and then I won't have to deal with this. In my experience, the spirits have been the most demanding teachers, in the sense that I can't hide anything from them. That those boundaries are smoke. So if I'm deluding myself about something, I'm confronted with that. Sometimes I'm asked to do things. I remember once I take notes, and this was years and years ago, before I wrote any of the books, and it's like, oh, I'll do this. And I just had these loads of papers of notes. And it's like, I don't know what to do next. And the message I got was burn them. Exactly.
No. Did you?
Yes.
You have to listen to the spirit then, right? Yeah.
Don't ask if you don't want to know.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Yeah, that's awesome. Wow.
And if you ask and don't do it, don't expect help later.
Yeah. So in the when you look at the story later on, was it good that you burned them?
Yes.
Yeah.
I never missed them.
Yeah. Interesting. Wow.
Isn't that amazing?
I love this. Can we pull another card and have another poem?
Yeah, sure.
Because I think that's well, let's see. Maybe we can share on the screen, but if not, then we do it as we did last time. And this is maybe also for all the people who are watching. So you guys feel included. Maybe somebody will.
Let's actually use it as an oracle. So what's a question we might pose for everybody who's watching?
Maybe how can we create a world when we do feel like we are all humans and we all belong to this world, and nobody is better, nobody is worse, based on any shitty nomenclature or pointer. Yeah. So how can we create a better, how can we create a world when our human body is a common denominator and we all welcomed and embraced and can thrive. Okay, does it make
Okay.
sense? Such a small question. So
Yeah.
spirits, please give us at least an angle to this. Okay. Spirit journey group.
Okay.
The Albatross. So there's your jaguar.
Ooh, okay.
Was the Albatross the man and a woman?
Yes.
Ah, I love this because I'm on the journey of like really merging the masculine and feminine and not doing
Well,
this whole like duality thing. But
and
yeah.
aren't we all? I mean, you know, that's one of the basic perceived differences.
Okay.
We are the ones they call the albatross posture. We are not birds, but you can fly with us, traveling through the atmospheres, arriving at last into the swirling waters, the seas that are the portals to the underworld. Ours is a spirit journey. The underwater jaguar of the Hopewell people can carry you as we descend, breathless, dizzy with excitement, into the lower world. It is a place of peace and of power, a place to grieve losses and to celebrate abundance and joy. There are two of us, woman and man. You need us both for balance. Male energy for the creative thrust, female energy to embrace the depths and nurture the world into being again and again. We find our balance, the two of us, sinking into the silent stillness that lies below. Here's the oracle suggestion. For all of us to create this world you spoke of, one, go deep into the psyche to balance old emotion. Who is the underwater jaguar for you? That is, who will carry you as you go into the depths? How are you balancing creation and nurturance? Or probably the fire and the earth with water and air between. Sink into the heavy, silent stillness that lies below. So, hearing that, how would you interpret the answer to your question?
Well, I think we cannot look at this whole thing with the rose-colored glasses, because I think somehow each of us has to really deal with our own losses, with our own grief, and this is kind of part of the being a human. I think. I also felt like I love that kind of, who is your underwater jaguar? You know, who can carry you? I think there's always somebody around us whom we can reach out to or count on. Recently, we had this Poppy Palin. I don't know if you've heard about her. She's created this enchanted tarot of everyday enchantment. And she has created her own like she committed suicide. She took her own life, and she posted 3 videos on her YouTube channel, just kind of saying goodbye and doing this whole, she spoke really very beautifully and peacefully about it. I think she came really to peace with her decision. But what came out of me for that she felt so lonely. She felt so like if she didn't do it, nobody would do it for her. And I felt like I love that there is this beauty in duality also, that that could be read on so many levels. But I think for anybody wanting to move forward, I think there's so much suffering in the world, and so much that, you know, for some people more than for others as well. And it's so hard sometimes to forgive and move forward. But I think if we do want to do it, there's the internal work for everybody to start with, I think.
We find our companions on the journey. and we reveal ourselves, a companion on the journey. It's just like I said, the spirits, you can't hide, because here you are. Find somebody you can be that clear with, and then be still, learn how to go into the silent stillness and work on your old psychic emotional issues. And if you do that, one, you'll be contributing to the world that you described, and you'll be in a place of getting the guidance you need to contribute to that world, because none of us can do it by ourselves.
Exactly.
And, so maybe you make a deck of cards, or you have tarot map and you share so much with the world. If we each do our part, the whole gets done.
Exactly. And I think there's, no, as much as I'm impatient and I would like to see it tomorrow, there's no like pressing it without, like, there's no jumping over certain like levels of getting there, which was just a confirmation. But I wanted to hear another one, like, yeah, it's happened. Go for it. It will be amazing. Everybody will be happy soon. Belinda, can we actually share that fish woman that you had on the screen?
Oh, sure.
Could you
yes.
tell me a little bit more about her? Because I think this image is just so powerful. When I saw it, I was a bit like taken aback even by the just the whole posture.
Here's the, whoops, wait, let me start over. I wanted to do screen share and then I got all, where did she go? Well, I'm going to stop this and start over and see what I can do.
Yeah, because you opened.
So if you'll just talk for a little bit and let me kind of.
Yeah, okay. You figure it out. And what else do I have here?
Yeah.
Actually, I was listening to one of your interviews at some point. Maybe we can, at the end, we can talk about it, because you're also a teacher of Enneagram.
Yes.
Yeah, I was listening to some podcast about this. But coming back to the deck itself, I'm going to do a very detailed review of this deck, because I haven't yet. I wanted to just like play a little bit, but I can share before you put the fish woman on that I have used couple of cards for trying out the postures. And for anybody who we will link the link that Belinda said, you can access some of the drumming or rattle songs to listen to go into the posture, but also you can go on YouTube, like you can put like 15 minutes rattle or drumming shamanic journey, and usually it's okay. Like I use this Michael Harner's, I think, or
so. Well, I do want to let you know that the recordings I have of Felicitas and me probably 35 years ago, and we, had them cleaned up. So anyway.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
I think the fish woman doesn't want to be seen.
Oh, she's gone.
Because part of it was, no, here she is, there.
Awesome.
So isn't that amazing? It's a what we would call a metamorphosis posture. Yeah. Were you ready for me to do this? I just popped in.
Yeah, no, okay? It's good. Like I think this is, yeah, exactly, because I was just kind of killing time, but I can tell you about, I did tell you about it. I don't have to share it with the whole world, but all I'm going to say before we go, that this is really, I would encourage everyone who has this deck to try the postures and not to get encouraged when you're like, yeah, it's just the yellow bird who came and sit on my shoulder and nothing happened. Like I quoted you, like this is a relationship building. So you're also training a muscle, you also allowing yourself to relax more and more. And I would just suggest just do it and write it down also. Even though I don't know if you agree, Belinda, but I noticed that if the journey is really something that is experienced, like you remember it. I remember it until now. Like I will remember. I mean, I still wrote it down, of course, because who knows, in 20 years I might not remember it.
Right, exactly. And
But,
I keep a journal just for my experiences with postures. And then I can go back and, you know, a year ago I did this posture and this is what came through and how is that relevant? Or over the past 3 months, these are the postures I've done. What's the overall message from all of them?
yeah, it's a bit like
this is a metamorphosis posture, and she's becoming a fish, and you can sort of see the scales. Her breasts are going away. Her hands, I talk about in the poem that my arms and hands are already attaching to my body, no longer useful for eating or touching or doing. I am becoming a fish. And you'll see there are lots of artifacts from cultures around the world of shaman becoming another creature. And so this is from Mexico, and she's from, I think, about somewhere between 1200 and 900 before BCE, before the Common Era. And so she's quite old, from the area called Santa Cruz in the state of Morales. And somebody found this. I don't know much of the story around her, but isn't she amazing? And so she's developing this fish mouth of just receiving. You know, if you're a fish and you don't have hands and arms, then you receive through your mouth. And what is that like for us?
she looks so pregnant too. I thought she was giving birth.
Well, she might be, I don't know.
And also somehow, for some reason, she looked so African. I haven't read about her. I just like send you the image because I thought, like, I looked through the cards and I'm like, oh, she stood out. It's fascinating. So can I express one criticism?
Yes.
I wished, I know you speak about it in your book. So I wish you added the information about the artwork, you know, the artifact, like where it comes from in the companion book. And this is not just you. It's interesting because there is this shaman's oracle and they use the art from the caves.
Mm-hmm.
And they also don't give a name of the caves. And I'm like, come on, people. I just wish you did it because I always want to know. And I know most of this kind of through the poem, you get where the being is from, but it would be lovely to have just like a, you know, source material. But I looked through your book and it's there. It's in the book, but it's not in the companion book with the cards, which I think would be a lovely thing to do. So that's just my 5 cents.
Well, interesting to think about that. I always teach that, and it's in my first 2 books about the postures, and I didn't think to put it with the cards. Yeah, and that's why I'm like, because somebody asked me like, but is there a source material? I'm like, yes, because I remember reading it, but it wasn't in this book. It was in the, but actually I do recommend getting your book as well. Can you remind me the title? I know it's Ecstatic Postures, but. Well, actually there are 2 books. One is Ecstatic Body Postures, an alternate reality workbook, and the other is called The Ecstatic Experience. And they're both published by Bear & Company, which is part of Inner Traditions. So, I mean, you can go on anything and just put in my name, Belinda Gore, and come up with those. I have the first one, and I think that's, it's like, here is in the little introduction, which is really great, I think, and it's like expansion, and you give examples also and experiences of like how people experience the body postures, which is cool. I don't know, do we want to say anything else? I think like we just said so much, and I think this deck is amazing. I can't wait to like work more with the postures actually. And I hope you'll let me know what your experience is with
I
them.
will, Belinda.
You know, what questions come up when you actually use them. I have a website, belindagore.com, and I'm always pleased to hear from people.
Yeah, I will link all your information below in the description
Okay.
box, all the contacts. I just look at the questions because I said to my friend, what should I ask Belinda? Help me, my friend Melanie. So she just wrote me some questions. I think I covered all of them. How would they affect my life if I practice them? Oh, she asked something, is there any set routine like 5 Tibetans? But I don't think there is, because they all from different, like around the globe, right? It's not a set from one culture or something.
Oh, right. No. At one point, I thought I might like do groupings from different cultures. I kind of like doing it globally.
Me too.
So I'm inclined not to.
Yeah, no, I think that's just beautiful. And I think, you know, it's so inclusive, and they ancient beings. And I think it's lovely that, you know, they're being remembered, and they have been probably remembered by people who culture they come from. But I think to honor those beings, it's really something that maybe the world needs right now also. And I think we're so like emptied of ritual in our cultures. Like I miss it so much. And, you know, I use ritual in tiny and bigger amounts every day in my life. And I think it's just something that's
and
so
you know,
important.
you can use the Tennessee diviner is especially good for this, but as long as you use the basic format of, you're ready, you're open, you set sacred space, you honor the spirits, you breathe to get ready, and then whatever else you want to do as part of the ritual. But you can ask, what would be a good ritual for me? We would do week-long workshops. We called them masked trance dances. And so we call the spirits, ask for an animal spirit who wanted to be embodied in us, make paper mache masks, costumes, ask the Tennessee diviner for a whole ritual, created a dance that always spoke to some kind of a mythic story that wanted to be embraced, or making the rain from the cloud of unknowing. I always like that concept that it's all around us, but we have to get through the barrier of not thinking or living our lives in mythic or ceremonial ways. And whatever we can do to live in a more ceremonial way, the better we are. If it's going out for the full moon, which is, I think, today or early tomorrow morning.
Yeah, it's like, in Sagittarius, I'm a Sagittarius.
Yeah, right. Noticing the moons, the solstices and equinoxes, just that. Going out every morning and just saying thank you for the day are such simple ways that help us be more attuned to this larger world we live within.
Exactly. And that invisible world, which is equally large, if not larger.
Much larger, I think, yes.
Thank you so much, Belinda. I think we're going to close up with this. I hope everybody enjoyed this conversation. I feel inspired. This deck is such a wonderful tool, and so multi-layered as our reality is, which is lovely. So thank you so much. And I will be in touch, Belinda, because, maybe we'll meet up on Zoom or something. Maybe I join your group.
Lovely.
I'd love to practice with you at some point. And thank you so much for agreeing to come up. And I hope, we can share this inspiration with people who are watching. And if you guys want to know more about Belinda, please take a look at the links below. I will link her contact details, website, and so on. And yeah, if you're fascinated with this deck as I am, then you know what to do. You can go and get it. It's still available, right? Like you have copies. Yeah, cool. Yeah, because sometimes I'm like, oh, this is such an amazing deck, and then it's like out of print or something. So this time we're lucky, and I think it's beautiful. So thank you so much, Belinda. It was lovely to have you on. Say goodbye to Judy. Was it
Judy? Yes.
Judy.
Yeah.
Bye, Judy. It was a hilarious story.
I'll let her know.
Yeah, and I'll be in touch. So thank you so much. Thank you everyone for watching. I'm just going to stop recording. Bye.
Thanks.